Greetings, friends. Gemini Brett here on this Virgo Lunation 2024 Follow the Moon journey. There was no video last night because there was no moon last night. I'm sure moon existed, just the clouds would not allow me to receive her reflections of the sunlight. I actually did wake up at one point very late in the night and I saw this. And I knew that these clouds here above Mount Tamalpais were indeed illuminated by the moon. There was even a tiny bit poking through at one point. So that was my experience of the moon last night. I was hoping I might be able to get out at the time that moon culminated last night to see if moon had indeed reached visibility above my midheaven tree. This is right now from where I live in the El Sobrante Hills of Richmond, California, thanks to Stellarium astronomy software. And I just went and took a look, and this big, beautiful moon is quite visible indeed. Saturn looked a little bit more like this, and the moon a little bit more like that. But a really amazing thing is going to happen around 4 in the morning local time that maybe I'll end this video with. Well, actually, why not just start there? I'm going to move through time. And this is a really wonderful experience that while all the planets like the moon and Saturn are going to rise in the east and set in the west, in the northern hemisphere, they'll culminate at the meridian midheaven, due south in between. Notice that moon is approaching Saturn. Why? Because moon moves faster through the signs. Right, so let me stop right there and we're going to zoom in, and we see a Saturn occultation. I have to supersize Saturn for us to see Saturn at all. And the truth is we're going to have to look topocentrically in all sorts of things. I'm hoping that the clouds will stay away for me to make eyes with this lunar occultation of Saturn around 4 in the morning. And then tomorrow evening at full moon time, the moon herself will be occulted by the shadow of Earth. Okay, but that's so tomorrow. You might catch me looking this way some throughout the course of this video because I'm seeing a very beautiful evening star Venus above Mount Tamalpais and the rainbow chakra colors of the horizon right now, and I'm waiting for it to get dark enough to see Spica, who Venus is currently conjoined. So if I'm looking that way, that's why. This is going to be a quick video because I'm really excited to go out and connect with that energy. What I'm going to do here is, first of all, rewind, retrograde. I'm going to bring the sun up to the horizon here. And I'm going to go back in time. Let me get a calendar on the screen. Okay. So right now it's September 16th, 2024. I'm going to actually rewind. Let's highlight the sun here. And we're just going to rewind to sunset yesterday and the days before, and we're going to go back. I'm going to take the atmosphere away so I can really see this, and let's supersize the moon. Okay, to new moon time. So here's September 1st. If we're going to supersize the moon, we better supersize the sun. Okay, and let's go to September 2nd. So here's sunset at September 2nd. Now this was the new moon. Okay, I can show you this in a chart. Would look something like new moon here, September 2nd. Locally where I reside, it was at 6:55 p.m. So let's just punch that time in here. Okay, so here's the new moon time. And I'm going to take their supersize away. Let's zoom in a bit. So new moon is a no moon unless the moon and the sun meet at one of the lunar nodes, which is where the moon's path intersects that of the sun, like here. This is the moon's south node. Let's see it in the chart. Here's the moon-sun conjunction. So new moon, right? Though not visible, a no moon. And then there's the south node. So it will actually be the new moon next month here where solar eclipse comes around, because here's the moon meeting the sun at an intersection point of their paths. And so moon will occult the solar disk, at least partially. Actually, this one, an annular solar eclipse, the ring of fire, the hearts of Earth, moon, and sun are all aligned, with the moon a little bit too far from Earth, which we can see in moon conjunct Lilith there, to occult the entire sun disk. So moon further, smaller, and so we get the ring of fire. All right. Anyway, when I rewind to the full moon preceding that October 2nd annular solar eclipse, we see this very Neptunian partial lunar eclipse, okay? And locally, you can see that at least geocentric or Earth center configuration of moon, Earth, and sun will happen shortly after sunset. So we'll get to see this moon rising here, shadowed partially by the Earth. Okay, but let me go back to the new moon time of this Virgo lunation. And I'm even going to proceed from there a little bit to when the moon reached the local midheaven on that day. Maybe this won't let me do that, but this certainly will. Okay. So remember that the midheaven is where the ecliptic, or the path of the sun, intersects the meridian, right? The north-south line that divides the eastern sky that ups from the western sky, which downs, okay? Along with the ground beneath our feet, the horizon, now we get this cross and we get 4 quadrants. Above the ground going up, above the ground coming down, beneath the ground going down, and then beneath the ground coming up. The house is 3, 2, 1, liftoff at the ascendant, you see? Anyway, what we've been noticing in the Follow the Moon videos over the past days, or I've been trying to point out to you, is how the culmination of moon, right? So moon reaching the meridian, halfway between rising and resting, how that's going to happen at a different time depending on the lunar phase, right? So before new moon, this would be like the last hours of moon's waning, right? Before she conjoins the sun later this day. Well, actually, let's go to the next day. There. Okay, so this is right before the new moon. So I think you can see. Let's actually move through time a little bit. And there you see moon passing sun by, right? You saw it was like 1855. Okay, so now moon is past the sun. We can't see moon, right? Because under the beams. It's like the next day when the moon can be seen. But let's go to moon's reaching at the meridian the following day. Oh, wrong button. So here's September 3rd. Okay, so the day after the conjunction. And of course now the moon waxing away from the sun is going to culminate after the sun does. I think it was actually the following day here, September 4th, when I recorded the verse video of this series. Because, well, let's just go to sunset time. And then I was able to see the moon. And the moon was configured to Venus. It's actually, well, I can't show it, but the image on the desktop here, there's Venus. I don't know, too much blocking our view, but you can go and rewind to that September 4th Follow the Moon 1 video when I first had this visible experience of Diana's bow, the sliver crescent, right? Well, of course, the moon followed the sun to the rest, descending. We'll follow the sun to the roots beneath the ground. We'll follow the sun to the rise. I guess let's just watch all this happen. Okay, so this is called the primary motion. And then we'll follow the moon to reaching at the meridian. right? So the sun gets there at midday, halfway between sunrise and sunset. And for all intents and purposes, the moon gets there halfway between moonrise and moonset. That's not exactly true because the moon's speeding in the other direction much faster than the other planets do in the orbital motion through the signs. I just can't tell an astronomical lie, even though maybe that's too much information. And so what's going to happen here, right, is moon is culminating. It's still daylight, right? Let's continue on this journey. I'm just going to bring the moon to the midheaven. You can see the calendar in the lower right. So there's September 5th and the 6th and the 7th. And you'll notice that the moon's getting lower too. Why? Well, now here she is in the scales. We got a video of that, but not at this time, of course, because the sun was above the ground. Entering the Scorpion, if you'll remember the videos of that, right? And now coming to the stinger of the Scorpion. Okay, well, that is 0 tropical Capricorn, and in the northern hemisphere sky, that is the lowest zodiac degree. So it's not like the moon is always going to be like getting lower day by day at the midheaven. That has to do with the sign in which the new moon was. If the new moon sign is Virgo, that's a high sign in the northern hemisphere. Well, then a couple of days later, Libra, and then Scorpio and Sagittarius coming down. Of course, it's this Sagittarius Capricorn cusp, tropical zodiac, not constellational. You can see that Capricorn glyph right there, which is the lowest zodiac degree in northern hemisphere skies. It is the degree that is most south of the equator, globally speaking. In the southern hemisphere, that means higher in the sky. But in the northern hemisphere, that means it's literally furthest away. It's the Tropic of Capricorn, right? So that's low. Just like when you walk away from a building, the building seems to get lower. Do you see what I mean by that? Okay. So what we're going to see is, and I'm just going to put the clock right here. So this one happened at 7:43 p.m. Well, what about the next day? Moon's culmination. And it's at 8:41 p.m., right? And now, by the way, you're going to notice, let me just keep the circle here. The next day, the moon's culminating at a greater altitude. Why? Because now she's going through Capricorn on the way to her Aquarius. There we go. This is the night that I recorded actually at this time, I believe. You know, I think it was the day before when I recorded the moon at the midheaven, and then I waited for Dorsum here of the sea goat to get to the midheaven to teach you how to see the midheaven degree in space with your face, and how to also work with the high point to find the ascendant through the trees. All right, well, let's go to the next day, and we're going to continue, and we're going to see that the moon moving through signs that appear in the northern hemisphere at higher and higher altitude. Hey, Anna. We're also going to see that the moon's culminating later and later on the clock. Why? Because she's getting further from the sun. What's going to be the latest clock time culmination for the moon, or latest real natural time culmination for the moon? When the moon is full, right? Because when the moon is full, she's on the opposite side of Earth from the sun, opposite side of the zodiac, which is a terrestrial thing, right? And so, of course, that means the moon will culminate when the sun roots down beneath. That's the middle of the night, right? Okay, so here we are on September 13th, and now we're looking at, 9:39 p.m. Let's go to the next culmination of the moon. On the 14th, we're looking at 10:37 p.m. Let's just keep my circle there, so we'll see that on the next day, higher. September 15th. This was the moon I was not allowed to see. I was really excited to see if that moon was like now at the peak of my midheaven tree. I don't know. Here's tonight, moon and Saturn will culminate together, and I hope to be sleeping because my alarm is going to be set for the moon-Saturn occultation, which will happen some hours after this. Okay, I just want to show a map in case you see this video before then, of places on Earth that, clouds allowing, will be able to experience this occultation, lunar occultation of Saturn, meaning moon will actually occult our view of Saturn, will hide Saturn, okay, as passing Saturn by. I live right here in the edge of this map, okay, which means it's going to be happening right before Moon Saturn set. And over here in Australia, Papua New Guinea, they are experiencing it just as Moon and Saturn are rising. Hawaii is kind of right in the middle of that. They'll get to see Moon occulting Saturn, clouds allowing, when the two are at the MC. All right. So for this video, I just want to continue forward from here a little bit. So let's go, here's September 17th at midnight. Well, at sunset on the 17th locally, that's going to be the full moon. So when I go to this next lunar culmination, moon at the meridian, first of all, you can see that she's at one of her nodes. How could I tell even before I brought the moon's path in? Because the moon's on the ecliptic, right? And the moon's only on the ecliptic twice a month when she's crossing the ecliptic at either the south node or in this case, the north lunar node, which is where moon's path crosses the sun's path from the south to the north, okay? And here's the moon ingressing Aries, which is where the north node is right now in early degrees Aries, right? Well, Aries equinox is like the middle altitude, whether you're in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere. Well, between the tropics, that's not exactly true. Like at the equator, it's directly overhead, but I digress. Anyway, now we're going to see the moon here after full moon time, reaching higher and higher heights in this particular lunation, because now into Aries and tropical Taurus and Gemini, which along with Cancer is the highest sign. Now we get to a point in the closing half of the cycle, or the waning half of the cycle as the moon is closing in on the sun, when the lunar culmination happens during the daytime. Okay, so general rule is the waxing moon is found in the nighttime sky, meaning visible above the ground after sunset, and the waning moon is visible in the morning sky, meaning above the ground and visible before sunrise. And hopefully, as you play with this, and not just on astronomy softwares like this or this, but out in the sky with your eyes, space with your face, you really start to integrate as the relationship between moon and sun changes. Where the moon is experienced and when, right? So as you watch the smile grow from sliver crescent to full O, right? And then shrink to the sliver crescent on the waning side. Notice around which time of day or night the moon rises and sets and culminates in between. Just doing that for a few months, which by the way will demand you keep let's say lunatic hours, right? The sun sets at sunset. When does the moon set? Depends upon the moon's phase. So sometimes the moon sets right after sunset. Sometimes the moon sets at sunrise. I just spoke about new moon and full moon respectively. So if you really want to track the moon for a month or two, well, consider good tea or coffee or the like, and find time to get some sleep in between. And that's what I'm off to do, because I will be here for the lunar occultation in the morning, clouds allowing. Now it's time to go be with Venus and speak out there above the mount, which is now hidden in the darkness. Nighttime is the right time. I hope you've been enjoying these Follow the Moon videos here at the School of Earth Astrology. Looking forward to sharing some video from tomorrow's Saturn occultation and then occultation of the moon by Earth's shadow. Until then, see you in space, friends.